Wow. Well, good morning, everybody. Hello, Alberta. Hello, Calgary. My friends, it is time for an election. Are you ready? My name is Rachel Notley, and I am running to be your premier again. With this incredible team of Calgary candidates behind me, beside me, and with me through it all. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 7. And I would also like to acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta, who share a very deep connection with this land. My friends, our cabinet has approved an order in council, and it was signed this morning by the Lieutenant Governor. And I am pleased to announce that Albertans will go to the polls on April 16th. So, my friends, are you ready to fight for an Alberta for everyone? Are you ready to fight for strong public health care for patients and good schools for our kids? And are you ready to fight for an Alberta where it doesn't matter who you love, to whom you pray, or the color of your skin? Are you ready to fight for an Alberta where there's no place for racism or white nationalism, where the only thing that matters is the content of your character? Are you ready to fight for an Alberta where we bring people together, not push them apart? Yes. And do you want to keep Alberta, one Alberta, moving forward together? Yes. Well, so do I. And friends, I can't wait for the campaign ahead. So let me start a little bit by talking about the choice in this campaign and speaking directly to all Albertans. You know, the events of the last few days have really underlined that choice for Albertans. 2 days ago, we learned that Mr. Kenney cheated to win his party's leadership. And when he was caught, he didn't tell the truth. Mr. Kenney looked Albertans in the eye and very casually and very comfortably lied to us, which in many ways goes to the heart of this issue, how comfortable Mr. Kenney is with lying. Now, in this campaign, Mr. Kenney needs to come clean. This issue goes directly to the choice before Albertans. It's a choice about who is going to be the Premier of Alberta and who is fit to be the Premier of Alberta. Me? The question is this: do Albertans stick together or do we turn on each other? Jason Kenney wants two Albertas. One for the wealthy and one for the rest of us. He wants two Albertas divided over people's rights. I want to continue to build one Alberta. I say we stick together through this final stage, from adversity to recovery to shared prosperity, that we all continue to take care of each other. That's what this election is all about. And so as I open this campaign, I would like to speak directly to all Albertans. Specifically, let me talk to you very directly, Albertan to Albertan. If you consider yourself to be a progressive or a moderate voter, I hope to earn your support in this election campaign. We share common values and priorities, values that Jason Kenney fundamentally rejects. We are the progressive, moderate mainstream of Alberta politics and of Alberta history. We fight for our province. We fight for our energy industry without building firewalls against the rest of Canada. We are on track to balance our budget without destroying our public services. We help people who need help rather than just the wealthiest and the luckiest. We work to bring people together, not divide people just because of who they are or who they love. We take a sensible, practical, step-by-step approach to progress, not the priorities of extremist and social conservative fringe groups. I hope to earn your support in this election. Let's team up to keep our province moving forward. Now, if you consider yourself a conservative voter, let me speak to you directly. I hope to earn your support in this election too. A growing number of conservatives here in Calgary and across Alberta are coming to have very serious doubts about Jason Kenney as Premier. A nasty record of intolerance should have no place in the Premier's office in this province. And it's now clear that Jason Kenney's campaign betrayed the Conservative Party by cheating to win its highest office. And then he lied about it. Now, is that a Premier? If that's what you're thinking as a Conservative, that maybe you just can't bring yourself to vote and to give your vote to Jason Kenney, and you're not just sure that he should be Premier of Alberta, well then, this time, in this election, let's team up to keep our province moving forward. Now, if you are a woman, let me speak to you directly. As we can tell from his many remarks, Jason Kenney isn't always comfortable with strong women. For example, he doesn't think that we're very good at what he calls tactical politics. But if what Mr. Kenney means by that are the kind of politics that won him the UCP leadership, well, frankly, then I wear that badge with pride. And I think that we have shown that a government with an equal number of women and men is a government that works for people and works for families. I was very proud to be that government for the last 4 years, and that is not something I want us to go backwards on. Instead, with your support, we will not go backwards. And we will not go backwards on our priorities or our rights as women. And if you're a young person, let me speak to you directly. I believe in you. I believe in your energy, in your optimism, your love for this province, and your hope for the future. Like you, I believe Alberta can and will lead on the fight against climate change. Like you, I believe Alberta can provide world-leading education that you can afford. And like you, I believe Alberta can diversify its economy and create those important good jobs that allow you and your family and your parents to build and keep building a life right here in Alberta. Oh, and one other thing. The minimum wage is the minimum wage. There are no second-class citizens in Alberta. The last thing young people want is for Alberta to go backwards. So I'm going to work to earn your vote so that we can keep going forwards. And finally, to all Albertans, if you want to build this province, if you want to act like an owner of our resources and insist that our jobs stay here in Alberta, if you want to ensure that our citizens have the best health care and the best education, if you want honest leadership that brings us together instead of looking for ways to drive us apart, if you want the approach that was pioneered by Premier Lougheed and updated and carried forward by my government to keep building our province over the next 4 years, then let's team up and let's keep moving our province forward. Re-elect me as your Premier. Because, my fellow Albertans, I truly believe that our best days are ahead of us. And I am fighting. I'm fighting for one province with one common future. Because in Alberta, we are at our best. We are truly at our best when we have each other's backs in good times, but also in tough times. Nowhere is that more true than right here in Calgary. Calgary is one of the world's great cities. It was built by ingenuity, by grit, and a lot of hard work. But since the oil price collapse, I know these last few years have been very tough. They've been scary for a lot of families. And I have worked day and night along with my team from Calgary and my team across this province to fight this recession and bring our economy back. And that's why I have thrown everything I have into building new pipelines. And I want to thank the people of this city for their unwavering support for that project and for that goal. And when I travel this country fighting for Alberta, I know that I have you with me. We are closer than ever to getting the pipeline built. And I promise you that I will not stop until the job is done. Now, fighting for jobs is also why I have thrown everything that I have into diversifying our energy industry. As you might know, I grew up on a farm in northern Alberta, an acreage in northern Alberta, and my whole life I listened to conversation after conversation about the need to get more value from our resources. I'm not the only one who knows about that conversation. We've been having it across this province for decades. But the thing is, I don't want my kids, and I don't want your kids, to have to be having that same conversation 30 years from now. And I'll tell you something, it's true. My dad and Peter Lougheed, back in the day, they went head to head. At times, they were fierce political opponents. But they respected each other. And they shared a desire to ensure that Albertans got the most that they could for the resources that we all own. And I think of them both often, and I am inspired by them both. And finally, fighting for jobs and an Alberta that works for everyone is why my government didn't make things worse when oil prices collapsed. We worked every day to make things better. We are building the long overdue Calgary Cancer Centre so patients get the care they need. We are building new schools, more than 40 here in Calgary, and we are making sure there is a teacher to greet our kids and our grandkids at the door. We are building the Green Line and expanding the Deerfoot Trail, the transportation infrastructure of a city of 1.4 million people, because it needs to keep growing. We're building the new BMO Centre, a new convention centre that will attract billions of dollars in private sector investment right here to Calgary. And my friends, we are protecting this city, the economic engine of this country, from catastrophic floods by building the Springbank Dam. Now, I know that here in Calgary especially, Mr. Kenney, he thinks he's entitled to your vote. But what I think is that we have to earn your vote. And that's what I have tried to do and what I will keep doing every day. just as I will fight in this election to earn the vote of every Albertan by offering Albertans a clear choice and a better future. And friends, the choice could not be clearer. Mr. Kenney's plan comes down to this. His plan for the economy: hand out the biggest corporate tax cut in history. His plan for diversification: ignore it. His plan for healthcare: privatize it. His plan for education: cut it. His plan for new infrastructure: toll it. His plan for our democracy: sell it, break it, and lie about it. His plan for the future: run from it. His relationship to the truth: deny it. Friends, we offer a better approach, a more hopeful approach. Albertans want those pipelines built, and we are going to build them. Albertans want our health care to be protected, and we are going to protect it. And let me say this, when that Calgary Cancer Centre opens, I promise you that it will be fully staffed, and you will not need a credit card to get in. Albertans want our kids to get the best start in life, and we're going to make sure that they do. We are going to expand affordable childcare, make sure our kids have good teachers, and that they can afford to go college and university right here at home. Albertans want to diversify our economy, and we're finally making that happen. We've come a very long way. And in this campaign, I will set out some big, achievable ambitions to create tens of thousands of jobs, turning the resources we own into the high-value products the world needs. And in this campaign, I will be laying out our priorities to build one Alberta with one common future. My friends, who is going to be Premier and who is fit to be Premier? That is the choice. Because Alberta is really, it is for all of us. One Alberta, not just for the few, but for all of us. And friends, I truly believe that Alberta's best days are ahead, and that the politics of love and hope and optimism always trump the politics of anger, division, and fear. And that's why I'm running to be Premier. That's why my fight, our fight, continues, and that's why we will keep fighting for you and for all Albertans. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Well, like all Albertans, I was utterly shocked to hear of the comments that that candidate, who was, of course, a star candidate for the UCP, made. And let me just say this. I personally do not believe that Jason Kenney is racist, but I do believe that the UCP as a party has a problem with racism. Pardon me? Well, you know, as I've often said, since pretty much the day I was first elected, we are going to call the election within the time that the legislature specifies we should. April 16th will be pretty much smack dab in the middle of that election period, which is specified by the legislation. And so it makes sense. You know, we'll have a good opportunity to talk about our vision for the future, to talk about building one Alberta, and it seemed like a good time to go. Does it help that there's been recent scandal among the UCP in the last few days, given this? You know, the reality is that I suspect we haven't seen everything yet, and we don't establish our campaign timeline or election timeline on the basis of the ups and downs, the ins and outs of UCP scandal. If we did, we truly would be waiting years to drop the writ. So what we are doing is we're going on the basis of the legislation, and that's why we're here today. Well, I think pipelines will be central. We are continuing our fight, and as you know, I believe that we are closer than we ever have been before. We know that the federal government has committed to trying to make a decision by May 22nd to move forward. We know the NEB has reapproved the pipeline. As you are aware, even yesterday, lawyers for the government of British Columbia conceded that they did not have the ability to stop the pipeline, and that was actually kind of good news. So the reality is we're going to keep pushing it. And what as you know, it's been over 60 years since a pipeline to Tidewater has been built. It's not an easy task. But what we have done is we have pushed hard. We have pushed the federal government to buy the pipeline. We have talked to Canadians from coast to coast to coast to build support for that pipeline. We have moved the dial in terms of the priority that Canadians across the country place on getting that pipeline built. And I think that we will get it built, and I will keep talking to Canadians. I will keep pushing people in BC. I will keep pushing the federal government, and we will make darn sure that thing gets built. It is absolutely fundamental to Albertans' futures and to Canadians. And then we will also keep up the fight on C-69, because this pipeline's not the only issue. We have to keep moving, and we will keep doing that. You know what? We have worked very, very hard, and we know that a lot of folks are still struggling as a result of the drop in the price of oil. But since the depths of the recession, our economy has created over 80,000 jobs. So we're not there yet, but we are making progress. And what we haven't done is we haven't used Alberta as an experimental petri dish to try plans that have been used in other places that have failed drastically, like what Mr. Kenney's talking about with his reckless $4 billion gift in corporate tax cuts that results in nothing but cut services and lost jobs. What we have done is we've invested in job creation. We are investing in diversification of the whole economy. We are investing in diversifying our energy sector. We are investing in our infrastructure across this province, not only as a means of keeping people employed, but also as a means of attracting more investment, private sector investment to our province. So I wish there were easy answers to this. There aren't. But there is the obligation to be diligent and focused and pragmatic and never stop focusing on job creation, which is exactly the record that our government has. And we'll keep at it. Well, I think honestly that that is a job for independent players, because I think for a government to launch an investigation into their opposition would be arguably a bit of an abuse of power. But certainly, we know that the RCMP is investigating. We know the Elections Commissioner is investigating. He's passed on some of the files to the RCMP, but I don't believe he's stopped all of his investigations. And so I think what we need to do is let them do their work. You know what? If the polls 30 or 40 days before an election were accurate, I'd be leaving here right away to go have a meeting with Mayor Bill Smith. So, which to be clear, I'm not actually going to meet Mayor Nenshi right now, but if I were, it would be Mayor Nenshi. So you know what? We're confident that things are moving the way they need to be, and more to the point, we are confident that now that we are moving into a campaign, and Albertans are able to focus on the choices that are in front of them, and that when they see the choices that are on offer for who is fit to be premier, and they see that we are focusing on continuing to build a united Alberta where we all come through the recession together, not divided, with a few people coming out and everybody doing worse. When they see the vision that we have, I am very excited to be able to talk about that to Albertans. And at the end of the day, polls don't decide elections, voters do. Well, you know, yesterday I had the privilege of introducing our throne speech in the legislature, and it laid out an overall set of values and a vision that we have for this province. And because I had an opportunity to do that yesterday in Edmonton, I thought today it would be great to be able to touch on many of those themes today in Calgary. As well, you know, let's face it, Calgary is a critical economic engine to this province and to this country. And our government is absolutely focused on helping all Albertans and all Calgarians come through this recession better off and together as one. And so it seems to me that Calgary is a very good place to start off this campaign.
We have time for 2 more questions, so we'll take Chris and then one more, and then we have to wrap. Thank you.
Premier, here in Calgary, the unemployment rate is still very high. There's a lot of pessimism given about what's happened with the delays in the last 2 weeks on pipelines. So what is the reason for them to be optimistic, given all of the negative news that they're seeing right now around them?
Well, I don't want to tell people or direct people that they have to be optimistic. Because, you know, there's challenges. But I do think we're going to see progress on the Trans Mountain Pipeline. They have a government which is absolutely focused on doing everything we can to protect Albertans and Calgarians from the ups and downs in terms of the energy industry and the market fluctuations and the price of oil. That's why we're investing in rail. That's a major investment to make sure that we protect the resources that are ours and protect the jobs that we have. We're also investing and moving forward very aggressively on our Made in Alberta energy diversification program. That too will ultimately bring about jobs, and in the longer term, it will leave our economy more resilient to the inevitable ups and downs with respect to oil prices. But we know it's a difficult time in the energy industry. We've been very seized with that since we've been elected, and we will continue to fight for the energy industry. And that's what Calgarians can get from us, is that we will continue to fight to make sure that our energy industry can succeed going forward.
And Rick will have the last question. Thanks.
I believe Calgary City Council later today is going to be talking about these empty downtown offices over here and not getting enough taxes because they're empty and they're not worth as much. How are you a better choice than Jason Kenney or anybody else to get those downtown offices filled? That is probably a central ballot question in Calgary.
Well, we absolutely have to get those downtown offices filled, and we do that by investing in diversification in Calgary as well as in Alberta, diversifying the energy industry as well as diversifying the economy as a whole. That's why, for instance, we've committed to the BMO Centre, which we know will bring a lot of activity to Calgary, and it will highlight Calgary as a place to do business. That is so that's a critical thing. That's why we just recently, for instance, invested $100 million into high tech in order to not only build off of our current leadership in the high tech sector, but to grow it and to attract more investment to Calgary and other places. The other thing that we're going to continue to do is invest in infrastructure so that Calgary is a place where people want to come and where they can grow their businesses and it makes sense. And of course, we're going to maintain something that is often forgotten, which is that we have an $11 billion tax advantage over the next lowest tax province in the country. So we are a place for people to come and to invest. And then finally, we're going to continue to support our post-secondary so that new investors, when they come to Alberta, will find and continue to find that young, best educated population and workforce in the country, the most educated and the youngest workforce in the country. That's why we invested in 3,000 new tech seats, for example. Those kinds of things are how you work with business to attract more investment, and we'll keep at it.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.